I thought Thai food was just pad Thai. A sleep story and cultural discovery through Thailand. Chapter 1. The dish that followed me everywhere. Before I came to Thailand, I thought I already knew Thai food. At least, that was what I told myself. Back home in Canada, there seemed to be a Thai restaurant on almost every busy street. And no matter which restaurant I visited, I always ordered the same thing. Pad Thai, sometimes chicken, sometimes shrimp, sometimes extra peanuts, but always pad Thai. To me, pad Thai was Thailand. If someone had asked me to describe Thai cuisine, I probably would have mentioned noodles, peanuts, lime, and sweet sauce. That was the entire country inside my imagination. Simple, comfortable, predictable, and completely wrong. My name is Michael. I am a travel photographer from Vancouver. Several years ago, I decided to spend 3 months traveling across Thailand. I wanted beautiful photographs, golden temples, mountain villages, tropical islands. What I did not expect was that the biggest surprise would arrive on a plate. Or rather, many plates, thousands of plates, each one quietly revealing a Thailand I had never known existed. The discovery began on a warm evening in Bangkok. The rainy season had recently arrived. Dark clouds drifted across the sky. The city glowed beneath them. Motorcycles hummed through narrow streets. The scent of charcoal smoke floated through the humid air. Street vendors prepared dinner beneath bright lamps. Steam rose from metal pots. Plastic stools lined sidewalks. People gathered around small tables. Some laughed, some talked, some simply enjoyed their meals after long days of work. I had arrived only a few hours earlier. Jet lag weighed heavily on my body. My hotel stood near a busy neighborhood market. After dropping off my luggage, I wandered outside in search of dinner. The sounds of Bangkok surrounded me. A distant train, the buzz of neon signs, the rhythm of traffic, the soft clatter of dishes. Everything felt alive, yet strangely peaceful. I followed the smell of grilled meat until I reached a small food stall. An elderly woman stood behind a wok. She smiled when she saw me. Hello? Hello? You want dinner? Yes. She pointed toward a menu covered in Thai writing. I stared blankly. She laughed softly. Then she asked a question I understood immediately. Pad Thai? Relief washed over me. Finally, something familiar? Yes, I said. Pad Thai. She nodded and began cooking. The wok hissed. Flames danced beneath the metal pan. Eggs cracked. Noodles tossed. Sauce sizzled. Within minutes, a steaming plate appeared before me. I sat down, took a bite, and smiled. It tasted wonderful, sweet, savory, comforting, exactly what I expected. Yet something strange happened. Every table around me was eating something different. Bowls of soup, plates of rice, colorful curries, unknown vegetables, grilled fish, fresh herbs, dishes I had never seen before. I looked around curiously. Nobody else was eating pad Thai. Not one person. The old woman noticed. She smiled knowingly. First time Thailand? Yes, she nodded. Then she said something I would remember for years. Thai people not eat pad Thai every day. I laughed. Really? She laughed too. Many food. Very many. At the time, I didn't understand what she meant. But over the following months, I would discover just how true those words were. That night, rain began falling gently. The market roof echoed with soft tapping sounds. The city lights reflected across wet pavement. The air smelled of basil and charcoal. I finished my meal slowly, feeling tired, comfortable, content. Yet, somewhere inside me, curiosity had awakened. If Thailand was more than pad Thai, what else had I been missing? The answer would begin arriving the very next morning, and it would change the way I thought about food forever. As the rain continued outside my hotel window, I drifted towards sleep. The city hummed softly beneath the darkness. And somewhere beyond the familiar plate of noodles I thought I understood, an entirely new Thailand waited to be discovered. Chapter 2. The Morning Bowl. The next morning, Bangkok woke before I did. Long before sunrise fully touched the buildings, the street below my hotel was already alive. Metal shutters rolled upward. Motorbikes coughed gently to life. Vendors pushed carts into position beneath tangled wires. Somewhere nearby, someone was chopping garlic. The smell drifted through my window before I even opened my eyes. It was not the smell of pad thai. It was sharper, warmer, deeper. A smell that seemed to belong to morning itself. I stepped outside while the sky was still pale blue. The air was humid but soft. A few birds called from the rooftops. A monk in orange robes walked quietly along the sidewalk with his alms bowl. People bowed their heads slightly as he passed. No one hurried him. No one stared. The city, so loud the night before, seemed to move with surprising gentleness. Near the corner, I saw a small breakfast stall. There were no tourists, only office workers, taxi drivers, school children, and an old man reading a newspaper. Everyone sat with bowls in front of them. Steam rose into the morning air. I walked closer. A woman behind the stall looked up and smiled. "Good morning." "Good morning," I replied. She pointed to a large pot. "Rice soup?" I hesitated. "Is it spicy?" She shook her head. "No spicy. Soft food. Soft food." The phrase sounded comforting. I sat on a plastic stool and watched her prepare the bowl. She ladled rice porridge into a deep white bowl. Then she added minced pork, ginger, green onion, fried garlic, and a soft egg that disappeared gently beneath the surface. When she placed it in front of me, the steam touched my face. The first spoonful surprised me. It was simple, not loud, not sweet, not sour, not the bright flavor I had expected from Thai food. It was calm, warm rice, tender pork, a little ginger, a little salt, a feeling almost like being taken care of. The woman noticed my expression. "Good? Very good," I said. She nodded. Thai breakfast. I looked down at the bowl. Back home, Thai food had always meant dinner. Takeout boxes, Friday nights, friends sharing noodles around a table. But here in Bangkok, Thai food began before the city had fully opened its eyes. It began with rice soup, with quiet streets, with people preparing themselves for the day. A young man at the next table smiled at me. "You like joke? Jock?" I repeated. He pointed to my bowl. "This, rice porridge." "Oh, yolk." He laughed gently at my pronunciation. Then he said, "When we are sick, we eat jock. When we are tired, we eat jock. When morning is cold, we eat jock." I looked around. The morning was not cold by Canadian standards, but I understood what he meant. Some foods do not warm the body because the weather is cold. They warm the body because life is long, because people wake early, because the day ahead requires strength, and because sometimes comfort is quiet. Not every Thai dish announced itself with chili and lime. Some arrived softly, like steam from a bowl before sunrise. After breakfast, I walked through the market. Vendors arranged baskets of fresh herbs, bundles of lemongrass, kaffir lime leaves, galangao, long beans, Thai basil, banana leaves folded like green silk. Fish lay on beds of ice. Coconuts were stacked in pyramids. A woman sliced mangoes with careful hands. Everywhere I looked, food was not just something people bought. It was something people understood. They touched it, smelled it, compared it, asked questions about it. A grandmother pressed a tomato gently between her fingers before choosing it. A young mother bought fresh curry paste wrapped in a plastic bag. A vendor scooped coconut milk from a metal container. I began photographing small details. The shine of morning fish, the red of chilies, the silver steam above soup pots. But the longer I walked, the more I realized something important. Thai food was not one flavor. It was not one famous dish. It was a language, and I had only learned one word. Later that day, I met a Thai friend of a friend named Nareen. He was a quiet man in his 30s who worked as a school teacher. He offered to show me around his neighborhood after work. When I told him I loved pad thai, he smiled politely. "Pad thai is good," he said, "but Thai food is bigger than that. I'm starting to understand." He looked pleased. Food here changes with time. Time, morning food, rainy day food, temple food, family food, street food, festival food. He paused, then added, and food from different regions, north, south, Isan, central Thailand, very different. I had heard the names before, but they had existed only as places on a map. Now, through food, they began to feel alive. Naren took me to lunch at a small restaurant hidden beside a canal. The water moved slowly beneath old wooden houses. Laundry fluttered from balconies. A cat slept under a table. The restaurant had no English menu. Naren ordered for us. Soon the table filled with dishes. Clear soup with tofu and minced pork. Stir-fried morning glory. Omelette crisp at the edges. Rice. A small bowl of chili fish sauce. Everything looked simple. Nothing looked like restaurant food from back home. Yet the meal felt complete. Naren scooped rice onto his plate, then added small bites from different dishes. Thai meal is sharing, he said. Not one person, one plate? Sometimes, but with family, we order many dishes. Everyone shares. I watched the rhythm of the table. A spoonful of soup, a bite of omelette, a little vegetable, a touch of chili, rice between everything. No dish stood alone. Each flavor answered another. Salty, fresh, soft, crisp, hot, mild. It was not about one big plate. It was balance. Conversation moved slowly between bites. Naren asked about Canada. I asked about his students. Rain began falling outside. The canal darkened. Drops tapped on the tin roof. For a while, no one in the restaurant seemed to hurry. People simply ate, talked, listened to the rain. I realized then that Thai food was not only about taste. It was about pace, about togetherness, about the way a table can hold many small things at once. Food, weather, memory, family, kindness. That evening, back in my hotel room, I looked through the photos I had taken. But the best memory from the day was not visual. It was the feeling of that morning bowl, warm in my hands, soft on my tongue, quiet in my heart. Before coming to Thailand, I thought Thai food was famous because it was exciting, spicy, colorful, full of energy. And it was. But that morning, I discovered something else. Thai food could also be gentle. It could whisper. It could comfort. It could meet you before sunrise and prepare you for the day. Outside my window, Bangkok glowed beneath another rainy evening. Somewhere below, another wok hissed. Another soup pot steamed. Another family gathered around rice. And I understood that my journey had only begun. Pad Thai had been the doorway. But behind that doorway was an entire house. Room after room. Flavor after flavor. Story after story. And tomorrow, Naren told me, we would travel deeper, away from the familiar streets of Bangkok, toward a region where food tasted of mountains, forests, herbs, and slow evenings. A place where I would learn that Thai food did not always burn like fire. Sometimes, it smelled like smoke, flowers, and rain. Chapter 3. The Flavors of the North. 2 days later, I found myself far from Bangkok. The train rolled steadily north through the countryside. Rice fields stretched toward distant mountains. Water buffalo stood quietly beside ponds. Palm trees swayed in the afternoon breeze. Occasionally, small villages appeared between fields and forests before disappearing again behind curtains of green. I sat beside the window, watching the landscape change. Bangkok felt distant now. The city of trains, markets, and endless movement slowly gave way to a softer rhythm. The air seemed calmer, the sky wider, the silence deeper. Across from me sat Naren. He had decided to visit family in the north and invited me to join part of the journey. You want to understand Thai food? He asked with a smile. Yes, then you must leave Bangkok. I laughed. That sounds serious. It is. He pointed outside. Thailand is many places. I remembered what he had told me earlier. North, south, central, Isan, different regions, different histories, different flavors. Back home, I had imagined Thai food as a single thing, one cuisine, one style, one taste, but Thailand itself seemed determined to teach me otherwise. By evening, we arrived in the ancient northern city of Chiang Mai. The air felt cooler than Bangkok, not cold, just gentler. The mountains surrounding the city seemed to hold the evening light a little longer. Golden temple roofs shimmered above old walls. Lanterns glowed along quiet streets. Bicycles moved slowly past cafes. Everything felt unhurried, peaceful. That night, Naren took me to his aunt's home. It stood on a quiet lane lined with flowering plants. The house was simple, wooden, warm, a place that immediately felt lived in. As we entered, the smell of food drifted from the kitchen. Not the sweet smell of pad thai, not the sharp smell of Bangkok street food. Something entirely different. Herbs, charcoal, garlic, smoke, and something I couldn't identify. Naren's aunt greeted me with a welcoming smile. Welcome. Thank you. She motioned for us to sit on a woven mat placed on the floor. Soon, dishes began appearing, one by one. A basket of sticky rice, a bowl of tomato-based chili dip, grilled pork, stewed vegetables, herb-filled sausage, clear soup. Everything looked unfamiliar and wonderful. I stared at the basket of sticky rice. Naren noticed. First time? Yes, he laughed. Use your fingers. I hesitated. His aunt smiled and demonstrated. She pinched off a small piece of sticky rice and rolled it gently into a ball. Then dipped it into the chili mixture. Simple, natural. I followed her example. The rice was soft and slightly sweet. The dip was smoky and rich. The flavors felt earthy, comforting, connected somehow to the mountains surrounding us. Nothing tasted like the Thai food I knew back home. Nothing. And that realization filled me with excitement. Naren's aunt watched me carefully. You like? Very much. She nodded with quiet satisfaction. Then she pointed toward the sausage. Sigh, ooh, I tried a piece. Lemongrass, herbs, spices, a hint of smoke. Every bite seemed layered with flavors I couldn't fully identify. Different from Bangkok, I said. Very different, Naren replied. Why? He thought for a moment, then answered. History. I waited. The north has mountains, different weather, different people, different kingdoms long ago. He picked up some sticky rice. Food grows from where people live. The sentence stayed with me. Food grows from where people live. Not only ingredients, ideas too. The longer I traveled, the more I realized that food was a map, a history book, a memory, a reflection of geography itself. After dinner, we sat outside beneath a sky full of stars. The evening air carried the scent of jasmine flowers. Crickets sang from nearby gardens. A dog barked somewhere in the distance. Naren's aunt brought tea. The conversation moved slowly, comfortably. At one point, I asked a question that had been growing inside my mind. Why do people back home mostly know pad thai? Everyone laughed, even Naren's usually quiet uncle. Finally, the uncle answered, easy. Why? Because one dish travels. He gestured toward the mountains. But a country cannot fit on one plate. For a moment, nobody spoke. The night seemed to settle around us. Soft, still, wise. A country cannot fit on one plate. The sentence felt true far beyond food. The next morning, Naren took me to a local market. Unlike the crowded markets of Bangkok, this one felt slower, older. The vendors knew one another. People stopped to talk before buying anything. Fresh vegetables covered long tables, purple eggplants, tiny green chilies, bundles of herbs, mushrooms gathered from nearby forests. I watched an elderly woman selecting ingredients. She smelled herbs before purchasing them, touched vegetables carefully, examined every detail. Naren smiled. Many Thai people buy food every day. Every day? He nodded. Fresh ingredients. Back home, many people shopped weekly, sometimes even less. But here, food seemed deeply connected to the rhythm of daily life. The market was not simply a place to purchase ingredients. It was part of the social fabric, a place to meet neighbors, share news, exchange recipes, maintain relationships. As we walked deeper into the market, I noticed something surprising. Many dishes contained ingredients I had never seen in foreign Thai restaurants. Wild herbs, local mushrooms, regional vegetables, special chili pastes. The diversity amazed me. For years, I had believed Thai food was already familiar. Now I realized I had only glimpsed the smallest corner of it. Later that afternoon, we drove into the countryside. Rolling hills stretched beneath drifting clouds. Rice terraces followed the curves of the land. Small wooden houses stood among fruit trees. The scenery felt almost dreamlike. We stopped at a family-run restaurant overlooking green fields. The owner greeted Naren warmly. Clearly, they had known each other for years. Soon, more dishes appeared. Again, entirely different from what I expected. One featured young jackfruit. Another used herbs gathered from nearby forests. A soup carried a fragrance unlike anything I had ever tasted. I asked the owner about it. He smiled. Local herb. What is it called? He told me. I immediately forgot the name. Everyone laughed. The owner nodded sympathetically. Many foreigners cannot remember. Then he added something I found beautiful. You don't need to remember every ingredient. Really? No. He looked across the fields. Just remember how it feels. I thought about those words during the meal. Food as feeling, not only flavor, not only knowledge, a memory carried by the heart. As evening approached, golden sunlight covered the mountains. The fields glowed softly. The air cooled. And for the first time, I understood why so many travelers fell in love with northern Thailand. The beauty was not dramatic. It was gentle, patient. The kind of beauty that revealed itself slowly, like northern food, like conversations, like friendships. That night, lying beneath a ceiling fan in the guest room, I listened to the sounds of the countryside. Crickets whined through trees, occasional distant voices, and I reflected on everything I had learned so far. Before Thailand, I thought Thai food meant one famous noodle dish. Now I knew at least 3 truths I had never understood. First, Thai food changes from region to region. Second, many Thai meals are built around sharing rather than individual plates. And third, food often reflects geography, history, and community. Yet Naren promised that an even bigger surprise awaited. Because if northern Thailand taught me about mountains and herbs, the next region would teach me about rivers, fields, fire, and one of the most beloved food cultures in the country. A place where meals were often bold, sometimes spicy, always full of character. A place called Isan. And there, I would discover that food could tell stories not only about landscapes, but about resilience, family, and belonging. Chapter 4, The Table of Isan. A few days later, I said goodbye to the mountains. The cool northern air, the quiet lanes of Chiang Mai, the scent of jasmine drifting through evening gardens. All of it slowly disappeared behind the train window as I traveled eastward. The journey was long, but peaceful. Outside, Thailand unfolded like a moving painting. Green rice fields shimmered beneath sunlight. Farmers worked slowly beneath wide-brimmed hats. Water reflected clouds. Small villages appeared and vanished. Buffalo stood knee-deep in ponds. The further we traveled, the flatter the land became. The mountains faded. The horizon widened. And eventually, I arrived in a region many foreigners rarely discuss when they talk about Thailand. A region called Isan. Naren had been talking about it for days. If you want to understand ordinary Thai food, he told me, you should understand Isan food. Why? He smiled. Because Isan food is everywhere. At first, I didn't understand what he meant. But over the following days, I would begin to notice it. Many street food vendors. Many restaurants. Many family gatherings. Many popular dishes. Their roots often led back to Isan. The region occupies Thailand's northeast. For generations, people here lived closely with the rhythms of farming, rivers, and seasonal weather. Life was not always easy. The land could be dry. Rain could be unpredictable. Families learned how to make the most of every ingredient available. And over time, they created a food culture unlike any other. The afternoon I arrived, Naren introduced me to his cousin, Somchai. Somchai lived in a small town surrounded by rice fields. He greeted me with a wide smile and an even wider laugh. You ready to eat? I laughed. I think so. No. He shook his head dramatically. You are not ready. By sunset, I realized he was correct. His family gathered beneath a covered outdoor area beside their house. Plastic chairs appeared. Small tables appeared. Children ran through the yard. Grandparents sat nearby, chatting softly. The atmosphere felt relaxed, natural. Nobody seemed rushed. The sky slowly turned orange, then pink, then deep blue. A warm breeze drifted across the fields, and then the food arrived. One dish after another. Sticky rice, grilled chicken, fresh vegetables, herbs, soups, dips, and a dish I had heard about many times but never tasted. Som tam, papaya salad. Back home, I had occasionally seen it on restaurant menus. But what arrived at this table looked entirely different. Freshly made, bright, fragrant, alive. Somchai noticed my curiosity. You know Somtam? A little. He laughed. You know tourist Somtam. Everyone at the table laughed, including me. Then he handed me a spoon. The first bite exploded with flavor. Lime, garlic, fish sauce, fresh papaya, tomatoes, peanuts, chili, sweet, salty, sour, crunchy. Everything seemed to happen at once, yet somehow it worked perfectly. I stared at the bowl, trying to understand what I had just tasted. Somchai grinned. Good? Very good. He nodded proudly. Thailand. But the meal was only beginning. Next came grilled chicken, the skin crisp and smoky, the meat tender, then sticky rice, then vegetables, then soup, then more conversation, then laughter, then more food. The rhythm felt familiar now. Not one large dish, not individual meals. A table built for sharing. A table built for togetherness. At one point, Somchai's mother placed a basket of sticky rice in front of me. Eat more. I've already eaten a lot. She smiled. More. Everyone laughed. And I learned another truth about Thailand. Refusing food from a caring host can be surprisingly difficult. Not because people force you, but because generosity is offered so naturally. Food becomes a language of kindness. A way of saying, you are welcome here. You belong at this table. As darkness settled across the fields, conversation turned toward family stories, childhood memories, village life, harvest seasons, school days. Everyone contributed. Nobody dominated. The food remained at the center of everything, not as the main event, but as the bridge connecting people. At one point, I asked Somchai something that had puzzled me. Why is Isan food so popular across Thailand? He thought for a moment, then shrugged. Maybe because it is honest. Honest? He nodded. Simple ingredients, big flavor, family recipes. His father added quietly, and food that people miss when they leave home. The table fell silent for a moment, not an uncomfortable silence, a thoughtful one. I remembered meeting Thai workers in Bangkok who had grown up in other provinces. Many had moved away for jobs. Many lived far from their families. Perhaps dishes from Isan carried something more than flavor. Perhaps they carried memories, the smell of childhood kitchens, the sound of grandparents talking, the feeling of home. The next morning, Somchai took me to a local market. The market opened early. Before sunrise, vendors were already arranging vegetables, preparing grilled meat, cooking soups, selling herbs. The air smelled of charcoal smoke and fresh coriander. People greeted one another warmly. Many vendors knew their customers by name. I noticed that food here often seemed connected to seasons. What happens if ingredients aren't available? I asked. Then people eat something else. The answer sounded obvious, yet somehow refreshing. Many modern supermarkets make every season feel the same, but here, food still followed nature. Rainy seasons, dry seasons, harvests, local availability. The connection between land and table remained visible. As we walked, Somchai pointed toward a group of women preparing ingredients together. See that? What? They are making food for a temple event tomorrow. Several families were working side by side, peeling vegetables, preparing herbs, cooking large quantities of food. Nobody appeared stressed. The work seemed almost social, like a gathering. I watched for several minutes, then asked, do people always cook together like this? Not always, he smiled, but often. That observation stayed with me. In many places I had traveled, food was increasingly individual, fast, convenient, portable, something consumed while moving. But here, food often encouraged people to slow down, to sit, to talk, to cooperate, to spend time together. and perhaps that was one reason meals felt so memorable. Later that afternoon, rain clouds gathered above the fields. The sky darkened. Thunder rolled in the distance. Children ran outside to watch. The first drops fell slowly, then steadily. Soon the entire landscape shimmered beneath rainfall. The smell of wet earth rose into the air, fresh, ancient, comforting. Somchai's grandmother sat beside me on the porch. She watched the rain quietly, then asked through Narin's translation, "What food do foreigners think Thailand has?" I smiled. "Pad Thai." She laughed so hard that tears appeared in her eyes. Then she shook her head. "Only Pad Thai?" "Mostly." She continued laughing. Eventually she calmed down enough to speak again. "Thailand has thousands of dishes." I looked across the rain-soaked fields and suddenly realized how impossible it would be to summarize Thai food in a single plate. Thousands of local variations, family recipes, regional traditions, seasonal ingredients, cultural influences, history stretching back centuries. Pad Thai was real, important, delicious, but it was only one star in a very large sky. That evening, as rain tapped softly against the roof, I thought about everything I had discovered. Food in Thailand was not simply something people consumed, it was woven into everyday life, into family, into memory, into celebrations, into community, into identity. And there was still one final chapter left in my journey. Because after learning about Bangkok, after learning about northern food, after sitting at an Isan family table, I would travel south, toward the sea, toward fishing villages, toward coconut groves, toward another completely different world of flavors. And there, looking out over the ocean at sunset, I would finally understand why my original belief had been so incomplete. Because Thailand was never just Pad Thai. It was something far larger, far richer, and far more beautiful. Chapter 5. Beyond One Plate. Final chapter. Several days later, I found myself standing beside the sea. The journey had carried me far from Bangkok, far from the mountains of the north, far from the rice fields of Isan. Now the horizon stretched endlessly before me. Blue water met blue sky. Fishing boats drifted gently in the distance. Palm trees swayed above white sand. The air smelled of salt, charcoal, and something else. Something familiar. Food, as always. Food seemed to follow every story in Thailand. Or perhaps food was the story. I had traveled south to a small coastal community where one of Narin's friends lived. His name was Arun. He worked as a teacher during the week and helped his family fish on weekends. When we first met, he looked at me and asked the same question many others had asked throughout my journey. "You like Thai food?" I laughed, a lot more than I did before. He smiled. "Good answer." The village itself felt peaceful. Colorful fishing boats rested near the shore. Children rode bicycles beneath coconut trees. Small restaurants overlooked the sea. Grandmothers sat preparing ingredients in open-air kitchens. Life moved at the rhythm of tides rather than traffic. That evening, Arun invited me to dinner with his family. As sunset painted the ocean gold, we gathered beneath a wooden shelter near the beach. The waves rolled gently onto the sand. A warm breeze carried the scent of the sea. Lanterns glowed softly overhead, and once again, dishes began appearing. But these dishes felt different from anything I had seen before. Fresh fish, seafood soups, curries rich with coconut milk, vegetables cooked with local herbs, spicy sauces, bright tropical fruits. The flavors reflected the coastline itself, the sea, the heat, the abundance of coconut palms. Every region I had visited seemed to have its own personality. And here in the south, that personality arrived with every bite. Arun noticed me studying the table. "You see now?" "I think so." He smiled. "No." The answer made everyone laugh. Apparently, I still have more to learn. His mother pointed toward a fish dish. "Try." I did. The fish had been caught that morning. The flavor was clean, fresh, simple. Nothing hidden, nothing complicated. Just excellent ingredients treated with care. And suddenly, something clicked inside my mind. Throughout my journey, people rarely talked about food as if it were an achievement. They didn't boast about recipes. They didn't try to impress me. Instead, they spoke about ingredients, families, markets, seasons, villages, communities. The food itself was important, but what surrounded the food seemed equally important, perhaps even more important. As darkness settled over the beach, conversation drifted from topic to topic. Fishing, weather, travel, school, family. At one point, Arun's father asked me a question. What surprised you most? I thought carefully. There were many possible answers. The variety, the regional differences, the flavors, the markets, the hospitality. Yet none of those felt complete. Finally, I said, I thought Thai food was a menu. Everyone looked at me curiously. I continued, now I think Thai food is a story. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Arun's father smiled. Yes, only one word, but it felt meaningful. A story. That was exactly what I had been discovering. A story told through ingredients, through family traditions, through geography, through memory, through people. The waves continued rolling onto the shore, soft, steady, endless. And as I listened to them, I began reflecting on everything I had learned. Before Thailand, I believed a common misunderstanding shared by many foreigners. I thought Thai food was mostly pad Thai, one famous dish representing an entire nation. But Thailand had quietly shown me something very different. The first discovery, Thai food changes dramatically from region to region. The mountains of the north offered herbs, sticky rice, and smoky flavors. The northeast shared bold dishes rooted in community and farming traditions. The south celebrated seafood, coconut, and coastal ingredients. Bangkok brought influences from every corner of the country. Each place contributed its own voice, its own chapter, its own identity. The second discovery, Thai meals are often built around sharing. Back home, meals frequently belong to individuals. One plate, one person, but in Thailand, many meals felt communal. Several dishes, many hands reaching toward the center of the table, conversations flowing naturally between bites, food becoming a reason to gather, a reason to stay longer, a reason to connect. The third discovery, food reflects culture, not in a classroom setting, not through lectures, but through everyday life, through morning rice porridge before work, through market visits at sunrise, through temple gatherings, through family recipes passed between generations, through seasonal ingredients that connect people to the land. Food revealed values, patience, generosity, community, respect for tradition, adaptability, and perhaps most importantly, gratitude. The longer I traveled, the more I noticed how often food became an expression of care. Have you eaten yet? A simple question I heard repeatedly. At first, I thought people were literally asking about food. Later, I realized the question often carried something deeper. Are you okay? Have you taken care of yourself? Are you comfortable? Do you need anything? Food became a language of kindness, a language I slowly learned to understand. The following morning, I woke before sunrise, unable to sleep, not because of noise, but because of peace. I walked to the beach alone. The sand felt cool beneath my feet. Fishing boats moved quietly across the water. The sky shifted from dark blue to pale gold. The world seemed suspended between night and day. For a long time, I simply sat there, listening to waves, watching light spread across the horizon, thinking. Travel often changes people in dramatic ways in movies. A sudden revelation, a life-changing moment. Reality is usually quieter, more gradual. A collection of small discoveries, tiny shifts in perspective. And that was exactly what had happened to me. Thailand had not changed my life overnight. Instead, it had gently corrected assumptions I didn't even realize I carried. One meal at a time, one conversation at a time, one shared table at a time. The sun slowly rose above the ocean. Golden light spread across the water. And I remembered my first evening in Bangkok. The elderly woman at the food stall, the plate of pad Thai, the moment she laughed and said, Thai people not eat pad Thai every day. At the time, I thought it was a simple comment. Now I understood. She had been pointing towards something much larger, a doorway, an invitation, an entire world beyond a single dish. A few hours later, it was time to leave. Arun and his family accompanied me to the small bus station. Before boarding, his mother handed me a small package of food for the journey. I smiled. "You really don't want me to go hungry?" She laughed. "No." Then she added something in Thai. Arun translated, "My mother says food tastes better when shared." I looked at the package in my hands, then at the family standing beside me, and I realized that sentence described far more than food. Experiences are better when shared. Stories are better when shared. Understanding is better when shared. The bus engine started. People waved. I waved back. Slowly, the village disappeared behind me. Palm trees, fishing boats, the ocean, all fading into the distance. Yet, something remained. Not a recipe, not a menu, not a list of dishes. Something deeper, a new understanding. Years have passed since that journey. Today, whenever friends tell me they love Thai food, I ask a simple question. What have you tried? Most answer immediately. Pad Thai. I smile every time because I recognize the person I used to be. And then I tell them a story. A story about a morning bowl of rice porridge in Bangkok. A family dinner in northern Thailand. A shared table in Isan. A sunset meal beside the sea. And the lesson hidden inside all of them. Thailand is not a dish. Thailand is not a menu. Thailand is not a single flavor. Thailand is a collection of countless stories told through food. Stories of mountains, stories of rivers, stories of rice fields, stories of fishing villages, stories of families, stories of kindness, stories waiting patiently to be discovered. And if there is one thing I learned from Thailand, it is this. The most beautiful parts of a country are often the things we never expected to find, especially when we think we already know the answer. The waves continued rolling toward shore. The markets continued opening before sunrise. Families continued gathering around shared tables. And somewhere in Thailand tonight, another traveler is probably ordering pad thai for the very first time. Perhaps they believe, as I once did, that they already understand Thai food. Perhaps they do not yet realize that an entire world waits beyond that first plate. A world of flavors, a world of traditions, a world of stories. And perhaps one day, they too will discover what Thailand quietly taught me. Sometimes the journey begins with pad thai, but it should never end there. The end. Thailand still holds countless stories waiting to be discovered. If you would like to continue this journey together, I hope to see you again in the next story from Thailand through eyes. And if there is somewhere in Thailand you wish to visit through story, leave your suggestion below. Perhaps our next journey will begin there.